So, a very good morning, everyone. We have all gathered here to listen to this talk on understanding artificial intelligence. Um, Before we kind of start, maybe I'll just ask my colleagues Adish and Madhusudan to briefly introduce themselves. My name is Shruti, and I am a science policy analyst at Future Earth. And yeah, I'll also be moderating the session. So Adish and Madhusudan, if you could just introduce yourselves and then we could maybe get started.
Hello everyone. I am Adish and I am a colleague of Shruti here at Future Earth South Asia Hub. And I work mostly in the field of sustainability. And today we are having the ninth talk in the Science Awareness program series of webinars, which is mostly for the educational purposes of having the students gain some understanding into real world problems and real world scenarios and different topics that are in need to be understood by the students. So today we have Hari Ram, who is the speaker for today, and he is a generative AI engineer from IBM Bangalore, and he'll be doing the presentation, and hopefully we will have a lot of questions from the audience after the presentation, and please don't shy away from not asking questions later. And Madhusudan, can you introduce yourself? Or else, okay, we'll start the presentation with Hariram. Hariram, can you just no? But before that, Shruti, can you please give a brief introduction, bio of the speaker? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adish. So I am not able to see Mr. Hariram Kannan if its video is on. So I'm just assuming that he is around. Um, Let me just, briefly introduce him before we actually start talking about understanding AI based on his experience and what he has worked on. So, Mr. Hariram Kannan is, of course, he's a seasoned professional with over a decade of experience in the software industry, specializing in software development, data engineering, and of course, artificial intelligence, which is, what he's going to talk about more today, with a strong focus on generative AI itself. Um, in terms of his educational qualification, he holds a degree of engineering from the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, and over his, long professional experience, he has worked with many leading global organizations, Accenture, Ernst and Young, Oracle, and of course, most recently now with IBM. Um, uh, so what they have done is they have successfully applied this whole artificial intelligence and data driven approaches to solve very complex business problems, including the development of generative AI solutions to innovate across industries. So with this kind of deep expertise in AI applications that he comes with, and also with deep passion for advancing technology, Mr. Hariram, we thought would be, the ideal person to kind of give this talk on understanding artificial intelligence. And yes, over to you, Mr. Hariram Kannan, if you could you could start your presentation now. And also, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to write in the chat box, or maybe wait for the presentation to get over, and then, maybe we can have a session on the whole Q&A. So with that, yes, Mr. Kannan.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. It was overwhelming. And so you're all able to see me, right? So I'm Hariram. And am I audible enough?
Yes, 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 very much.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I'm thrilled to be a part of this science awareness webinar series initiated by the Future Earth South Asia Hub to promote capacity building and scientific awareness. So yeah, just to add a few more points to what already has been discussed. So yeah, as you all know, I've been working on generative AI space for over 3 years now, and specifically, I have started more into it from Oracle, and now I've been enhancing the opportunities at IBM, which is based out of Bangalore. So as you all know, IBM has been at the forefront of AI research for over 2 decades, and be it all of you would have heard about Watson X platform, Watson X AI, those things. And I have been got the privilege to working as a part of the team on cutting edge technologies that are shaping the future of AI across various scientific disciplines. So in today's session, what we'll do is we'll explore how AI is driving innovation in research, touching on areas like drug discovery, climate modeling, material sciences, and of course, the generative AI, which has taken the world by storm, especially after the GPT models became popular. So, okay, now we look at how AI is transforming the way we approach scientific problems and the ethical considerations that arise with this powerful technology. Because as you all know, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So AI is bringing more power to this world, transforming our lives. So it has to be more responsible. So and another topic is there at the end called responsible AI. We'll talk about that as well. But as of now, we start with the basic introduction of AI, and I hope that this session will inspire you to think about how AI can be applied in your own field, whether you're working in academia, industry, or research, or any other field. So let's go to the agenda. Yeah. So here is a quick overview of what we'll cover in today's session. So we'll start by giving a simple introduction to artificial intelligence and how it has evolved over these years. So AI is not new, as of right? Maybe many of think AI is completely new. No, it's been there for many decades, say 50 to 60 years, possibly. But now it is becoming popular because of one great thing that I'll talk about what it is. But you can think that AI is not brand new. It's always there for around 50 to 60 years now. Okay, and more than that, I'll touch on the areas as I discussed on drug discovery, the climate modeling, generative AI, etc., etc. So also we explore AI case studies where we could clearly see like how AI has brought tremendous improvements in terms of providing solutions to industries, and also how it has helped in enhancing the quality of life that people live now. Also, at the end, we'll touch on the ethical considerations, and we're integrating how can we integrate AI into research, and what is bias, data privacy, transparency, responsible AI, as I was talking. So with that, probably we'll go with the conclusion, and then we'll have a separate Q&A session where I'll be happy to answer your questions on the topics that you want to discuss. Okay, next slide, please.
Just a second. Some of the audience were not able to see properly, so I'm going to share the screen.
All right. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Okay. Is this the slide? Is the slide correct?
Yeah. What is artificial intelligence? Correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. Please continue.
Yeah, sure. So AI, as we all know, in terms of artificial intelligence, basically it refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks on par with human, right? And also there are different stages as well, where we could say like how it can basically reach to higher levels of enhancements. But just to talk about in simple terms, you would have heard about automated speech recognition, automated way of interpreting images, even making decisions, and even translating language translations. So these are all powered by AI systems. So at the back, there are AI dedicated AI systems which are being developed and which are domain specific. For all this, that is being used to uh, enhance these results, basically to cover up to match the accuracy that human can do. These AI systems are being developed in such a way that they work on par with humans and sometimes even more than humans. So in simple, you can say like you want to go for automation. So AI is something that you want to automate, intelligent automation. You can say like that. Uh, and now for all this, there are a set of algorithms that are already present at the back. So that is what powers the AI systems to bring in greater accuracy in whatever work it does. So be it language translation or speech recognition, there are dedicated algorithms for that. So now, just to say in layman terms, like if you've heard about Siri, Alexa, even of from Amazon, Netflix, and all, right? These are all AI systems, and even from Netflix recommendation systems, right? You would have seen like movie recommendations. It does. Even that is also AI. So it's spread across different domains. Whatever whichever does intelligent automation, basically is the in the reason is AI is a part of that, and even self-driving cars, as you could see in the recent trends, have been becoming more popular. So next we'll go through the historical background of AI. Okay, so here, so as I was mentioning, it is not completely new. This concept came in 1950s itself, and Alan Turing was the one who proposed this can machines think, and later it was followed by McCarthy is the one who coined artificial intelligence, and then later 1960s and 1970s did see a trend of developing models like automated chess platforms, etc., etc. But the reason why it didn't go great was because of computing power. So why now AI is becoming trend popular is because of the computing power. If you see even 2 decades back, there was not much of computing power was available, but now there is tremendous, right? Probably because of GPU expansions, the graphical processing units expansions, powered by NVIDIA. Obviously you would have seen the share price of NVIDIA increasing like anything, right? It has gone somewhere because of the power that the computing power brings to systems. And that is why AI is made possible now, which was not possible even 2 decades before, right? So the rise of AI, you can say, the AI is already there for many years, but the rise of AI is we are in an era where we see the obvious rise of AI because of the computing power. So thanks to the computing power and the data, obviously, data is what is much more important. Before we didn't have enough systems to aggregate or to basically basically to collect the data processing was more difficult. But now we are in a stage where the data storage, data processing is much more efficient because of the infrastructure that we could develop over these years. So, okay, more than that, let's talk about types of AI, which we call it as narrow AI, general AI, and super intelligent AI. So, narrow AI is something you can say like weak AI in the sense like it is tuned for a specific task. It doesn't work in a broader manner. In the sense like it is not, so you can't port it somewhere else to automatically work. So you're again tuned on that particular domain where you want to port it. So that's called narrow AI. So general AI is something that you basically can work as a human, can think like a human, and then act like a human, and the response will be like a human. So the chat GPT, whatever tools and AI tools that we see in the market right now, right? Especially after 2022. So those are all coming close to general AI. It's still not there. It's on par with narrow AI. But general AI is something that we are trying to achieve in a much better way. And super intelligent AI is the third stage, which is somewhat beyond our perception itself. It's somewhat super intelligent. You can see if you see movies like Terminators, if you see, I mean, there are so many movies, right? Already, Hollywood movies have come on that. So those belong to super intelligent AI, where we are yet to reach that level. As of now, we are trying to approach general AI, but we are not still there. So that's the progress that we have made so far over these years. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk about AI applications in research. So first thing is about the AI in drug discovery. Obviously, over these years, if you could see, there will be many. It's a traditional process that is being used to basically discover drugs, and also a lot of people are working, putting a lot of effort over decades to bring a drug to a market, right? So there are a lot of tests involved, there are a lot of procedures involved, and there are a lot of mechanisms and approvals, those things. But AI actually basically has dramatically accelerated the process, I would say, because of the automation that it brings in, the powerful automation it brings in. So using powerful techniques like machine learning, deep learning. I mean, deep learning is more advanced, but let's talk about machine learning now. So machine learning is simple. We can say like you have input features and you make the model or the algorithm learn on that set of features to basically understand the result. It's a kind of interaction between multiple features that will produce a desired result. So that is where if you see AI,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, sorry, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the questions can be parked at the end if you don't mind, so that we'll cover it quickly, and I'll make sure I'll answer all the questions, whatever is there. I mean, you can post the questions, but we'll get it answered at the end of the session. I think that will be helpful, I believe. So, if you don't mind, yeah. So one powerful system that AI is used for basically for protein diagnosis, right? AlphaFold. I think if you would have heard about, many of you would have heard about it maybe, or else if you're not heard about it, AlphaFold is a deep mind project by Google. Basically, it it works on predicting the structure of proteins based on some input features. So as I was mentioning, you have a set of input features, and using that, you try to predict the outcome. So this algorithm of the DeepMind's AlphaFold basically automates the process of predicting the structure of proteins based on input features like genome sequences, which we will see in the case study part. But as of now, you can think of like using some standard input features, it will predict the structure of protein at the end. And also Alzheimer's disease is more popular, right? Especially in among old age people. It that even that AI has come. Basically, using AI, we have seen breakthroughs in early diagnosing, in also potentially into faster and more efficient drug development as well for Alzheimer's. So yeah, so AlphaFold, we'll talk about it in the case study. But as of now, you can think of like the using the it basically gives the diagnosis of amino acid sequences in terms of medical terms, if you could see. And basically, it's used for finding the structure of proteins among medicines. Okay, so next slide, please. So yeah, here we'll talk about AI in climate modeling. So climate modeling is one of the challenge, right? We see a lot of problems with respect to uh, global warming. We see a lot of threats to environment recently, especially after the increasing pollution. So AI has been helpful in finding out in predicting disasters early using the same mechanism as I was telling. You need input features. Obviously, you need data for first of all for all this to train the model. So AI is nothing. AI never works out of data. So you need all the data. You need a clean data. So then you need to model on top of that using the input features and the outcome what it does. And once the algorithm scale, with massive data sets, it can simulate future climatic conditions based on the inherent patterns, the hidden patterns in the data sets. So that is why AI is more powerful, because we humans cannot decipher the inherent patterns in the data. It would require a lot of expertise and a lot of time investments. But these models can, with the power of compute, with the enough computing power that we have nowadays, we could see a tremendous impact. And also, not only that, we could see enormous results that AI produces basically out of this for predicting the future climatic conditions. So as I was talking about machine learning, we can also use machine learning, but deep learning, coming to the deep learning part, it's a more powerful framework compared to machine learning. So uh, deep learning, maybe I'll cover in the subsequent slides, but just to give an idea of, it's a complete black box, people say. We'll talk about why it's a black box later. As of now, you can say like it's a black box because of the um number of iterations, or the architecture, specifically of the deep learning neural networks, that makes it black box when compared to machine learning, which are easy to predict. Even this we'll be covering the last slide as a part of explainable AI, because ultimately you need AI to explain why it took the decision, right? That's the biggest challenge nowadays we see, because we never know why the AI model has taken the decision. But a machine learning model can easily explain that why it has taken a decision compared to a deep learning model. Okay, this is to give a high level idea of what it is, but we'll see in the subsequent slides of the difference between machine learning and deep learning algorithms. Okay, one, yeah, so talking about the climate changes, it does using the data sets of atmospheric and oceanic data, it does predict hurricanes, droughts, temperature changes, etc. when compared to earlier. So now the automation has been made more simpler. Okay, so yeah, and then neural networks as well. So using which we could see we could basically create a model that can easily interpret the features and then produce a desired outcome. So this is about AI in climate modeling. Coming to AI in material sciences. Can you just go to the next slide? Yeah. So, okay, so AI in material sciences. So material science is something that basically, as you see, it's not a, it's just a, it's a branch of traditional engineering, right? It's not something new. It has been there for a lot of years, material science. So, uh, in, for example, for analyzing a material failure, it would take some time, and it would take even a lot of trial and error to basically formulate something that could predict easily in advance the failure that will occur over time. But AI models will help us predicting the failure of the material, which of anything, basically of any particular material you take. It can basically, we can create a forecasting model which would help us in predicting the material failure at a faster rate, in the sense like at an earlier rate when compared to the traditional way of analyzing materials. So, so AI can also optimize material combinations for specific functions like energy storage, electronic connectivity, etc. So this is a glimpse of what AI can do, similar to what we saw in climate conditions, and also for the applications in drug discovery. Right, this is one more area where AI can help us. I mean, the area is wide, but this is the idea of what we can do. Of course, we'll see the details in the case study part, how it basically AI helps this, and how AI does remarkable predictions when compared to a traditional way of analyzing things. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so now we'll talk about AI applications across disciplines. So we saw the climate changes, material sciences, and drug discovery, right? So you see like how AI applications, how AI is making strides in areas like uh, genomics, astronomy, and even in other domains. So So basically, AI is helping researchers decode the human genome faster, enabling advances in personalized medicines. Right? There was once a stage where personalized medicines would take a lot of time, you need a specific counselor appointed, and also, I mean, the personalization was a big pain earlier, but with AI, right, you can easily personalize. This is not only with respect to medicine, but anything, even in educational curriculum, if you see, based on your learning behavior, AI can be made personalized. So it can serve as a personalized assistant. Already we are seeing digital assistants, right, in the form of Google. There are many companies, Siri, Apple Siri. There are so many things, right? So they are serving as digital assistants. But AI, with you can also make it more personalized by making sure AI learns your behavior and tries to advise you more personally, like a doctor or like a personal doctor or someone. That is where AI is also being used enormously, and um, and also because of this, it once I would say in at one point of time, AI will become indispensable in our life. All right, so okay, let's go to some of the questions. Probably if I can help on something, I'll just look at the chat.
So I think there's one question by Anik that I see. Can super AI replicate human consciousness?
Okay, okay. That's a good question. It seems to be very ambitious, but it can, but it's a long way enough. It's not easy, I would say. As you know, if you've seen a movie like The Robot, right? The Rajinikanth movie Robot, it's much more, I mean, film oriented, but in reality, it is not easy. But it's a long way go, you can say, but it might be possible with the advent that we have seen now, especially after the rise of popular chatbot tools. It is possible, but it requires more effort. I would say it's still a long way. I would say like that. Does this answer your question, Anik?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does. I think if anybody else has any questions, they can either put it up on the chat box, or maybe you could also raise your hand, and we can change the permission so you all can talk.
Yeah, sure. So, okay. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, I think you can just proceed further.
All right. So, yeah. So we'll talk about machine learning and deep learning in research. So as I was mentioning about a few concepts earlier, so machine learning is a both ML and DL. The machine learning and deep learning are subsets of AI. Only difference is that they work differently with based on the architecture that has been set up. So ML specifically a part of traditional AI, they say. So for example, if you see if you want to basically analyze data sets, a structured data set. So images and all forms gets under the concept of unstructured data, right? So if you go for a structured data, right, you have it like for example, a table information, right? A table data is an example of a structured data. So if you want to decipher patterns in that using AI, most probably you'll go with ML because it works best with those kind of data. But whereas DL, if you see, it works best with pattern recognition concepts and unstructured data because image recognition, voice recognition, these are all unstructured, right? You don't have a specific structure for this. So they are more suitable for this kind of data. And the architecture is more complex compared to machine learning. So people nowadays, after the advent of the transformer models, I'll talk about what transformer models is like. Just to say, like you can think of a model which would basically analyze the input and then learn patterns in the input and then tries to mimic the response of a human. So you just give the input and the corresponding response, and the DL model will basically understand the input and then try to decipher the mimic the human output, what was there in the human data. So that is where the pattern recognition comes. So that is where deep learning will be more useful. But for simpler use cases like tabular data, finding cost and cost benefit analysis, or finding the optimal model for forecasting, time series forecastings, for these and all, ML will more be sufficient, I would say, depending on the data complexity as well. But if you have large and huge data to decipher, and then more complex patterns exist in that, then again, deep learning might be preferred. So it exactly based on the use case, what you're trying to achieve. Uh, so that is where it is. Okay, this is about a high level overview of machine learning and deep learning. So yeah, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So data-driven insights in research. So for this, right, for so basically, and all these AI models, be it any domain you take where you try to model something using the data, it's all data-driven, right? Basically, it tries to learn everything from data. Um so this data should be highly not only confidential, it should be highly clean, so that there is no junk data or misinterpreted data which can make the model go crazy. So data cleaning, data structuring, basically you structure the data, what you need and what you not need, and you have to find the correlations among the data. So in the data, as I was mentioning, for example, take a table of data, you will have many features that in that particular data, right? So each feature can there will be multiple correlations among each of them. There may be direct correlation, indirect correlation, or there will be no correlation at all. So we have to structure these data in such a way that the model interprets and learns all this from the data. So that is the key point. So whenever you create an AI model or whenever this AI model is existing, it basically you need to make sure there is no the data is cleaned out properly so that there's no garbage in. So it's garbage in, garbage out. They say simple concept. So if you train the model on garbage data, obviously the output will be garbage. So that the mechanism to clean there, I mean, there's a structured mechanism like how we need to make sure the data is suitable for AI modeling. That we have to ensure that those practices are followed before you, so that we get good insights from the data. So that's why I mean the key point is to make the data clean for getting data-driven insights. Okay, coming to the next slide. Okay, AlphaFold. Okay, now AlphaFold in drug discovery. We have a case study. So this was, as I was mentioning in the previous slides, so this was developed by DeepMind that has done a significant discovery by predicting the 3D structures of proteins. So earlier, there were a lot of scientists involved, as I was mentioning, to basically analyze the protein amino acid sequences using different parameters. But now, with AlphaFold, it has been made. I mean, it could be solved in days, which took years. I mean, you can see the impact, right? It's a big impact because AlphaFold can, because of the computing power that we have, thanks to the computing power again, because of that, and also the model's ability to identify the genome sequences. That is what made this model more powerful in diagnosing different, even as I was mentioning, Alzheimer's disease, finding drugs relevant to that, and more than that, it has made a tremendous impact on the medical field, right? So let's see what are the inputs that were there. As I was mentioning in the previous slides, obviously you need a set of input features, so that the model will learn over time the patterns in the input features, which will basically give you the corresponding result or outcome. So those input features should have the correlation with the output features. It's not like something like you put anything. So the more correlation it has with the output features, it's better because it's going to influence the output feature in one way, right? I mean the output variable in one way, right? So the inputs for this particular AlphaFold were amino acid sequences was basically extracted. uh, I think it's a bit. I think when I was reading about it, it was kind of linear sequence. It's more medical terms, but still, I just want to give a high level overview of what I'm going to talk about. So it's about amino acid sequences, genomic data, the genes, right? Some genetic databases. We have a lot of databases which is covering basically the genetic informations. So those are also used for analyzing the evolutionary history of proteins because it's not like it's been there in the genes for the past for time, right? Just a minute. I'm sorry for the apologies for the disturbance. Sorry for the disturbance. Yeah. So you're talking about that. Yeah. So basically, we are using the amino acid sequences, yeah, genomic data, and then the existing protein structures that has been we got from the references from the databases. So these were all taken together, and that was used to model the protein structure using all this. So this is a glimpse of what input features were, but ultimately they did have more. And then also for the model to work better, right? We need to make sure the confidence in metrics, as I was mentioning the output variables, right? So how well the model is working well, that particular evaluation of models basically that is critical, super critical to make sure it's making sense, right? Otherwise, any model, the problem with AI is that it will work even though the data is less. But the problem is at the evaluation stage, you can clearly say whether the model is great or not. It's great only when it is adhering to those confidence metrics and giving good accuracy in terms of the result. That is super critical. Evaluation of models are super critical, basically, for to certify the model that it works best. And then, yeah, as I was mentioning, the applications spread around diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, predicting protein folding, etc. Yeah, so that's about this. Can we go to the any questions here? Probably we can take it up, or else we can go at the end of it. And at the end, because we can take it up. Okay, so can you go to next slide, please? Yeah. So generative AI. So I think everyone here will be interested in this particular space, right? Because this is, I would say, I would personally see after this, AI has become more popular because of generative AI, and even my domain of expertise is around generative AI. So I will talk about my experience also, what I do at IBM and what kind of work I do that I have done at Oracle as well. So generative AI is something that has been relatively new from probably there were models obviously before 2022 as well, but those were not those didn't become popular as compared to 2022 because the reason behind is that the GPT models, as we all, the most powerful model in today's era, the Chat GPT, Gemini Pro, these are all GPT models, ideally. So, Google's Bard, Gemini, I mean, there are so many things you have heard about, right? Even Llama, Meta's Llama 3 has also come. So, these are all powerful generative AI models because they are capable of generating text. So far, right? Whatever we have seen in the previous before to generative models, the model tries to answer it tries to rephrase the answers from the data itself. It's not capable of generating new data. But these generative AI models, I mean, have become a lineage or more powerful because of they're capable of generating data from the past data that has been trained on, a completely new data which you have never seen. That is why these generative AI models are becoming more popular and reliable, even for, people are now investing so much in this because they can automate. These are powerful chatbots, and these can automate any of the tasks, right? For example, the salespeople's job and say salespeople's questions, it can easily automate, right? Chatbot can easily automate over time. So not only that, it is also powerful in different applications. Even for images, there are stable diffusion models that has come up, even for generating images and new images. So you would have seen based on the prompt you give, you get an image, right? There are so many models, vision models that's come out. So those are all using the concept of generative AI for vision. So generative AI for text is something that we see for Chat GPT, Gemini Pro. These are all Llama 3. These are all models. But generative AI for vision is also available, but it's less common because it's not being predominantly used by people. But it's also there now. It's also a new leap in this in the field of AI, I would say. So yeah, as you see, generative AI is basically used in content creation, right? Many of us use for even people use for writing essays, blogs, etc. And customer support queries like chatbots handle complex queries, etc. And also for scientific research purposes, like yeah, basically even for scientific researches, right? Especially when you want to write literature reviews, right? people use that. It's sometimes it's termed as plagiarism, but still it's basically plagiarism, but still at least it's useful for identifying the information from that before you concise into your own version. So it makes basically life much more easier, I would say. And also, there's one more concept called few shot learning. It's a very good improvement that generative AI has done over in this area specifically, because I'll tell you what few shot learning is. Few shot learning is something that a model basically tries to learn with very less data. Let's say it tries to discriminate, doesn't learn, I would say. It tries to distinguish between the data, and say, like, if you have only a 10 rows of information, a table of data which has only 10 rows, still the model will be able to distinguish between what is right, what is, when you ask a question on that, it will be able to answer on that. That is the most powerful thing, because it has never been made possible before this. The reason why it is made possible now is the generative AI is being trained on massive data. It's like it's been using GPUs for training, right? So it's been trained on really massive data sets that it has learned so much information over that, and it's able to relate it with the new information that we supply. So it basically understands the nomenclature of language as a language model, the LLM, the large language model, right? These are all LLMs. So maybe many of you would have heard about it right now, but just want to address. So these LLMs basically uh, brings in more uh, in flavors, right? When you want to ask question and answers. So that is why this LLM can easily distinguish between what data, what the question is, and what data it want, what is the answer it has to provide. That is why it has worked well with this few shot learning, and it has also answered questions on unseen data also. Like there's a model called RAG, for example, the it's called retrieval augmented generation. Uh, Many of you have known about it, but it's becoming more popular now because you make the LLM answer on questions where it doesn't have data itself. I mean, that's more powerful, right? Because you're not supplying any data to the. I mean, the LLM doesn't have been trained on that, but it's able to answer the question. So we'll see how it is being done, but just a high level idea of all this. So this is what I'm actually working. I'm basically working on the last two things, to be very specific. Works well with few shot learning and answering questions on unseen data. Um, okay, so next slide, please, ma'am. Yeah, so AI in climate change, climate science, right? So there is already a model. I mean, people are using now. It's used by NOAA. So it's a US agency, basically, which tries to uh, use climate change prediction. So it's called National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's basically a US body which does the climate science prediction using the advancements in AI. So basically, inputs features are like the ocean temperatures, wind speed, humidity levels, etc., etc. Using that, they try to find the uh, patterns of in climates. Say, like, any disasters are going to come, or is there a hurricane is going to come, for example, the intensity of hurricanes, the path of hurricanes, much more. So this is being used likely by this organization called NOAA. So that basically uh, for basically safeguarding the people's life, right? It's more super critical to forecast the disaster in advance. So these AI models have definitely helped in all this. Okay, let's talk about the. Can you go to next slide, please, ma'am? Yeah. So ethical considerations. So when I was talking, this is more. This is also a bigger area in AI. Specifically, we are talking about bias, transparency. Um, so, for example, imagine a data which is less diverse, or for example, where which is doesn't, which are underrepresented, right? They don't cover all the information that is supposed to cover. So for that, so that will bring the model will try to put more emphasis on the higher represented groups, basically dominating groups. So it will pay less attention to the underrepresented groups, right? So what will happen is the model will try to be biased towards the the dominant groups or the popular groups, right? The popular information basically. So that way, there we introduce bias unknowingly or knowingly also. Sometimes it's being done knowingly also, but unknowingly also it's being done. So and the model suffers from this particular concept. So, for example, there are many situations you have read in the paper, newspaper, or somewhere like it tends to be biased towards gender. For example, female and male gender. It tends to be biased towards male gender. Some answers are like that. People have noted that. That is also because of bias in data. Some, if you bring bias towards a particular group or anything, the AI model interprets that, and that is a major challenge because the answers produced are more biased, right? It's not fair. It's not being I mean unacceptable. So that is the major challenge that people are trying to address because when you especially have a massive database or consists of data, finding bias is it's not easy, right? It's not something trivial. So um, that is one other way. There are so many other pathways for that for finding bias in AI and how to resolve that using human feedback. I mean, there are so many concepts, but I would say at the high level, finding bias in AI is one of the critical challenges that we are trying to address. Even Gemini Pro was being criticized for that, I believe. People would have, if would have been noted in news, Gemini Pro was also super criticized for having bias in AI, bias in the models. So that is one concept that we are trying to address. But there are so many ways, like you have to make sure the model there is you provide more diversity in data, you amplify the data, you synthetic generation. People have come with concepts like synthetic data generation, where there are underrepresented groups. People try to generate data synthetically. uh, there are concepts like upsampling, downsampling. People say like you sample is maybe in statistics, if just want to just give a few terms, like people use population sampling and all, right? If in a population you take few data points and then you try to create more data points out of that using some statistical techniques. So those are all being used to solve the bias problem because make sure that the groups are all well balanced. It's not underrepresented. No information is underrepresented. That is super critical for ensuring that bias is mitigated in AI systems. And then transparency. Transparency means like for example, the information which you provide to Chat GPT, right? Let's say, for example, we never know how the information is being used in the background, right? It can be used to train the model and improve the model, and then also it can be potentially leak also, right? For example, whatever information I'm going to give, it might be leaked out to some other third party vendor. So it could create a data leakage. It is possible, right? So those are all again measures that we have to make sure that data leakage is not happen. I mean, AI systems can easily leak data because it's not a human, right? Ultimately, it's just a system. So there are chances that the data which we give, the supercritical, can be leaked out. So trust and accountability require uh, clear AI, I mean, clear explainable models. So explainable AI, I was talking about explainable AI, right? That is one thing. As I was saying, deep learning models was black boxes. So that makes sure, that means that it's not able to interpret the results, right? Yeah, there's no interpretation provided by deep learning models at the end of the day, why it works like that, why the decision has been made like that. So that is one of the challenge, right? Because we don't know it's not reliable. It has taken a decision and it seems to be good, but there is no explainability or interpretability behind that. That is why ML models are more powerful. Machine learning models, if you see, they are simpler models, not like deep learning models, but they provide explainability. It's easy to interpret results. So if me or you or anyone, if given a chance, we will more if we would go with ML models if they give better accuracy because it's more interpretable. So that's why deep learning models, in the sense like the GPT models, etc., what we see now are black box models because we never know. Even the people who have designed this never know how it has been taken a decision. There are some methodologies again that is being put in place to make sure the interpretation is made possible. There are mechanisms available as well. It's not like it's not, but still it's not 100% possible to explain a deep learning model's decision how it has been taken. So these are all some of the challenges that we see as of now, like bias, transparency, explainable AI, and one more thing is responsible AI, which we'll see in the next slide. But these are the high level. The things that we have to sort out in AI systems. Okay, next slide, ma'am. All right, so ethical issues. So privacy and accountability. So privacy, as I was mentioning about the critical data, right? For example, medical, financial data, sensitive personal data. As I was mentioning, if you it can be easily leaked out. These are AI models at the end. So we, unless and until we secure these models with to make sure the data is not there is no data infringement or data leakage. These models, even though they outperform the market, still nobody's going to rely on that, right? Because they don't bring privacy at the end of the day. This is more super critical for some of the systems like medical, financial, especially for financial systems, right? Because think about any particular share market data or any particular any particular financial data, super critical is leaked out. It's going to create a mess in the situation, right? So still people are working on this for privacy, like how we can improve the privacy. Privacy also comes with personalization. I was talking about personalization AI, right? Like how AI can personalize your the way you based on your learning behavior, based on your behavior, based on your chat patterns. It can actually serve as a more personal assistant. So these are some of the challenges still. Um, but it shouldn't evade your privacy, right? It can become a personal assistant, but it shouldn't evade your privacy, right? So that is becoming super critical for ensuring we have privacy systems in place and accountability. Let's say, for example, you have a self-driving car and then some accident happens. So who is accountable for that? It's an AI model at the end of the day, but who's accountable? Is it developer or is the manufacturer or is the is the engineer who built that AI model? I mean, who is the customer representative? I mean, nobody knows, right? So these are all accountability factors that we have to bring in AI systems. We have to have a clear demarcation of responsibility for errors or harm caused by AI, which is now being discussed and still is being in evolved space, but there's still a long way to go for this. Um, so these are the concepts behind the ethical issues behind AI, like how we use and what all potential harms it can bring. Okay, next slide, man. So, okay, so the future of AI, right? As I was saying about, we saw so many things in the past, like for the as even I think one person was asking about like whether it can gain the consciousness like people. So it is possible, as I was saying, but it's still a long way to go. It's not something that could be possible in the short term. But over the other things, the other perspective is like AI democratization. So AI democratization means it's even available to the common man who doesn't have the AI knowledge or the deeper AI knowledge or the non-experts basically to be used in their own purposes, research purposes. So that basically a kind of plug and play model that is called AI democratization, where you can just port it somewhere and then use it for your own needs, and then make sure it helps you in your own business or in your own this thing. So that is being worked on. It's not something like you can port it elsewhere. It requires, as of now, AI democratization is not 100%. It's being achieved, but because people need AI knowledge, especially to port it somewhere and make sure that it works, it fits into one's needs. So, and then also to make sure the AI is solving problems across multiple domains, right? That is again one more challenge. As I was mentioning, we are in the narrow AI. The first slide, if you remember, we were talking about narrow AI, general AI, and super intelligent AI, right? So we are still in the edge. We have almost surpassed narrow AI, but we are still yet to reach general AI. So general AI is where it could solve multiple problems. A single model can solve multiple problems. Still not possible. You have separate models for that. That basically solves the problems. So because these are all domain specific, right? Uh, so that is one challenge. That I mean, this is the one thing that action item you can say. We're all working on that. That will be made possible in the near future. And then explainable AI, as I was talking about this, explainable AI is very super critical important, right? Especially like how the decisions are being made by AI systems, how the AI is interpret the features, input features, and how the results or the outcomes are being processed. So that particular concept has to be explained clearly to a layman. For example, if I ask some questions, it should focus on the interpretability and transparency, right? So yeah, so these are all the high level concepts uh, that we have. That mean the future of AI is being worked on. Basically, we are nearing that, and I believe in the near future we might have at least few of them in place. But yeah, people are working. There are dedicated research teams working on this. Okay, next slide, ma'am. So these are the conclusion and key takeaways that we have seen so far. So we have seen like ML models and deep learning models, how AI has been used in research like drug discovery, climate science, and materials research. And also we saw the real world application of AlphaFold, right? How it's being using the input features to predict the outcome feature, generative AI models, and ethical challenges, right? Addressing bias, transparency, privacy, accountability, etc., etc. And then the future of AI, like what all democratization of AI tools, personalized research, and then explainable AI, interdisciplinary collaborations. So these are all the key takeaways that we have now. So AI is we're just trying to scratch the surface of AI. Still a long way to go. Is what my point is. So yeah. So let's go to the next slide, ma'am. So yeah, we'll go for the Q&A now. I think I hope I'm not delayed much, but yeah, I've covered almost all the points.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And there are actually quite a few questions here for you, you know, in the chat itself.
Okay.
You can also
And
take a look at it, but I can also just say it. So Nikki has asked this question: AI is inevitable and a useful tool, but how can we as users be a responsible AI user? So
okay, sure. That's a good question. So, so being a responsible AI user is something like, for example, it depends on the area or domain you are. For example, if you are a corporate employee, you must make sure that you are not misusing the AI system or kind of doing some plagiarism by copy pasting your code or something into AI. Basically, a patent or something, right? If the, for example, if I work in IBM, I put a patented code into the chat GPT or models, it's a kind of being irresponsible because I'm trying to put a patent, I'm trying to make sure the patent is leaked out. It's not supposed to be. So responsibility depends on this place where you are. If you're a corporate employee, you should make sure you're using it in a for learning purposes, not for trying to misuse it. And if you are a student, you should not basically copy paste the essays and basically people do, right? If you are a student, they type questions, they copy paste the essays, and then they try to cheat with the question and answers. That is not a fair part because you can learn obviously with AI tools, but for examination or evaluation purposes, you must not use AI for that. That's meant to evaluate you. So that way, I would say responsible AI depends on the place where you are.
yeah. Um, So there's another thing on, and you also mentioned about the whole students part of it. So is it hindering students' creativity?
Yeah, that's a good potential question. I would say that it's not hindering creativity. Maybe it's trying to um, I mean, it can be answered in different ways. I would say, for example, creativity. If for me, if I would say, if I ask a question and get a creative answer, I would try to enhance over it. Can obviously learn creativity, but not for must not judge it because it's still a AI system, right? It's not super perfect to basically give you the most creative answer. We are more. You should always think that we humans are more intelligent in terms of creativity. AI is still a long way to go for creativity. It can automate something, easily automate something. That is a different space. But creativity wise, I would still say we are much more ahead of than that AI system. Still, AI has not reached that level. So you can obviously learn from that, but I would suggest you to explore your own creativity and not rely on AI's creativity completely. You can just try to evaluate. I think that's fine, but you must not rely on the AI systems, even for any of the answers. And questions, right, you must cross verify because AI systems sometimes can mislead. As I was mentioning, there are so many things behind the scene, right? Like bias, transparency. There are so many things that can make the AI systems go worse, and creativity can also go worse. It can be potentially misleading. So if you cannot completely rely on that, you can assess based on that. But still, it's you ultimately who are the most highly creative, I would say. I mean, does it answer your question? Uh,
Naveen,
Naveen
I'm
Acharya.
thinking, yeah, yeah, I'm thinking it kind of looked at it comprehensively. Yeah, he did say yes. So there's another question. It's more from a data and modeling perspective. Are there any techniques to distinguish what would be a good number of data for predicting a more realistic situation? I would think the more the number, the better. But yeah, you're the best person to answer. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, obviously, the more the number, the better. But more than that, what matters is the as I was mentioning about the features, right? So more than the good number of data, it should be the good features of data. That is more first super critical for a model to predict. Ultimately, it should have some correlations among the features. There are so many techniques available to evaluate the best features. Like we have exploratory data analysis, people say called EDA. Anyone who does starts with they do with EDA. They try to explore the data, what it is, like what is the statistics behind each of the variables and how would they correlate among each other, how do they correlate with the variable, the prediction variable. So these are all some of the tactics that they employ before they finally get into the count of number of data. Count of number of data comes at the last. More than that, the number of features, whether there is any missing data or not, any data which is being kind of misleading the other numbers, for example. So, for example, you have data from 1 to 10. Suddenly, the 11th row has 100. It's not a part of it, right? Suddenly, it's kind of total distortion. So these are all that mean you have to basically analyze first more than the number of data. Number of data comes at the last. Obviously, if you have more data, the model can learn more better. There's no doubt in that. But ultimately, it's the quality of the data that is more important. Number of features or the number of basically either you have the data represented properly. There's no data missing. There's no outlier. We call outlier basically. As I was saying, like 100 is outlier from 1 to 10 because 100 is nowhere related to 1 to 10, right? It's very far from 1 to 10 in terms of distance. Right? So just an example I give. So basically, these are all some of the things that we have to look into the quality of data first. Yeah.
Thank you for the talk, Hari. And
Adish, there's one
sorry?
more question. Maybe you can take a
Okay,
look at
okay.
it. And, yeah.
Okay. Please go ahead, Shruti. I can't see it.
Yeah, I do see. Can deep learning identify for the user exactly what new patterns it is identifying as a way of explaining the outputs it generates? Yeah, it is possible. So basically, these models, right, deep learning models, basically they try to featureize. I mean, they try to generate more features inherently to make sure they learn from those features. So it's a kind of they learn from patterns by generating patterns, different patterns that may not be easily identified for humans. So you can basically ask the deep learning model to, uh, in the sense like using these patterns, like how is correlating. It is possible though, but it is not 100%. You cannot because there are different stages. You cannot 100% go through each of them. It's like a superficial level you can analyze, but there are some tools that has been possible made possible now, which are basically giving you statistics and analysis of all the patterns and featureizations that is happening in a deep learning model. But ultimately, it's not 100%. I would say still we have still a long way to go for explaining the deep learning models. There are so many things that are coming in now, but at a high level, what I would say is that it is possible, but with more effort. That's the only way I would say.
Okay, Hari, I had a question. So I was wondering, at IBM, have you had the chance to work with Watson, IBM Watson?
What's the next? Okay. So not really actually. Still now we are trying to develop our models on top of Watson X. So we have not basically have not worked with Watson X as such. So I'll just tell you, I mean, good for that question. So I'll tell you what I'm doing at IBM. So I've been working on a project wherein people can, it's like similar to ChatGPT. You can say you upload a document and then you ask questions, right? Similarly, the customers can actually upload their the data documents that they have. It's not just one or two. It can span around millions or even thousands and millions documents. It can be any format. So and then they can have some brief discussion on top of that. So, and not only that, it might also relate to the IBM informations. So, whatever IBM information is there, that is coming from Watson X. So, Watson X is being trained on more on IBM data. But what I am doing is trying to enhance it to customer data. Like whatever customer data is being supplied, it will be able to answer both on IBM data as well as on the customer data. So customer data can be anything. So I'm not directly working with Watson X platforms, but I've been using it for kind of orchestration or kind of uh, checking on some of the things. But I'm developing something that is outside of Watson X, but completely different in the sense like using generative AI and our own model, you can say something that unique and own that you have to do for a customer. So Watson X is already defined for IBM products or IBM related stuffs. It's already good. So if you are working on IBM stuffs, it's definitely you have to use Watson X. But I'm more working on customer data sets, bringing their own models. It's called bring their own models, something like that. So they can put any of their own data and any of the enterprise data. That is where this privacy breach is more super critical because if the data is leaked out, it's a mess, right? We're all in a mess. So that is why this ethics in AI, actually ethics in AI and responsible AI is super critical for our team because we are working directly with the customer data.
I have a question. From the perspective of artificial intelligence, like for example, what is the ethics of AI when if we are to see that in terms of large language models, which are able to take in almost any type of data, but they are prevented by the company to expand its scope. So like they put limitations on how much of the data it can read. So, how do you bring in a kind of thresholds that the AI language model can look into? Like, for example, uh, if you give picture inputs, image inputs, that is a separate kind of input that a language model can learn. And in terms of having written inputs, that is another. So that goes under the chat GPT. So my question is like, how do you set a limitation for the growth of AI? And how do you make sure that AI is not exploited by people for in such a way that it becomes ethically and morally not all right?
Okay. Okay. So the restrictions. Okay. So the restrictions, as in you mean, we have to make sure. You mean to say like how to distinguish between the bad data and good data, and then make sure it kind of uh, does answer only on the good data. Is it the question?
No. My question is that see, as the language model develops,
Mhm.
it has some kind of conscious. Even though there's nothing like a consciousness that it has, it is also aware of how much of a growth it can have. So basically, it can respond like a 3 or 4 year old, or it
Mhm.
can explain in a much better way. But
Mhm.
so how do you make it such that the growth of the model is not exploited by the company to such an extent that it becomes ethically and morally questionable? Is my question.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. So the thing is, there is that particular concept is already being worked on. For example, to not to make LLMs exploitative. So for that, what ideally, I'll tell you the example from our company's perspective, what we are being doing. So we have been enforcing an environment or a system where the LLM is being constantly given feedback based on the answers and questions it has been given. So based on the feedback, there is a reward and penalty system. For example, the more promising and the more adherence it has towards the quality of the answers and not potentially mislead or not potentially be overtuned by the company, right? There are been rewards and penalty systems being set up. So the more worse it behaves, there's a higher penalty. The more good, I mean, the more adherent it belongs to, there is a higher reward. So based on this balance, the model is being tuned to make sure it is not being breached out or it's not being misused by any particular people within the company.
Okay, rewards and punishment system is something new which I didn't know about. I'm hearing it for the first time. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's called reinforcement learning, but it's something new that people are trying to incorporate to make sure the LLM works. It works in a confined environment. It's not being given more freedom. Simple. You restrict the freedom. That is you by giving penalty and reward systems. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Shruti?
I think you're on mute, ma'am.
Yeah. I am sorry. I always forget to unmute myself. So thank you very much, Mr. Kannan. It was wonderful listening to your talk, and we've also quite extended, taken up quite a bit of your time, over and above what we thought of. I am especially glad that you did not, post a very rosy picture that this is the solution to all, and also kind of highlighted what are the limitations that it has. So I think I am talking for myself, and I am hoping for everybody who has participated in this talk, and that we've thoroughly enjoyed and have gotten a kind of a holistic view of AI, its capabilities, and how we can use it, better moving forward, while also
Yeah.
understanding its limitations itself. So thank you very much. Thanks
Sure.
a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice interacting with you all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
We'll end it for today. Thanks a lot for joining.